said don't mess with my hair.
Give us a second,
fine.
guys. We're fixing things for those online so we can see your live feeds.
Yeah.
Be really nice.
Hopefully, anyways. We're trying to make it to where we can see if y'all say anything, and then we know if something's messed up. Because last time Nana was like, we can't hear you, but the audio is fine. She just didn't have the volume turned up. Or she did, but it was just quiet, so we might be able to turn the gain up. Oh, that's perfect. See if you can drag the comment section like that way. No. You can do that though.
Yeah, we do that. And then I wanna
Drag it to the top left, I guess.
there, and then no. Forgive us, guys. We're trying to get this to work.
If you use the corner, you can do both sides at the same time.
I'm trying to get the stupid window.
You have to be like where it's like diagonal. There you go.
Do that. Okay.
Yeah.
You can just put it over my face.
Sure. That'll work.
And that'll work. Okay. Cool. All right. Official intro because it just hit 7. Welcome back to Close Up with Jesus. Hope y'all missed us and you're ready for a good lesson. Last time we got a comment. Second comment.
This one was from Gunner, right?
Yeah, it's from Gunner. He said, "What God are you praying to?" And that really reminded me heavily of the golden calf. So that's what the background picture is today.
For me, it kind of reminds me of like what the priest would basically be doing.
Mm-hmm.
That and during Jesus' time.
And we got a cool video again by the Skit Guys. This one's not
As long.
15 minutes long. This one's really short, but it's really good. And I would like for y'all to watch it and listen in with us before we get too deep into this lesson.
I was watching TV the other day, and this show comes on with these religious fanatics. They were crazy. Well, you would think they were crazy if you didn't understand their culture and their religion. See, that's just the thing. They were worshipers of idols, and they took things to extremes. They painted their bodies. They wore these ridiculous costumes. They chanted, they danced, they made sacrifices to their idols. They had built these enormous temples to worship their idols in. It seemed like their entire existence climaxed into this one scenario, this one over-the-top act of worship. You don't really relate, do you? Let's try it again. I was watching TV the other day, and this show comes on with these religious fanatics. They were crazy. See, that's just the thing. They were worshipers of idols, and they took things to extremes. They painted their bodies. They wore these ridiculous costumes. They chanted, they danced, they made sacrifices to their idols. They had built these enormous temples to worship their idols in. It seemed like their entire existence climaxed into this one scenario, this one over-the-top act of worship. Idol worship. It's not just about golden calves anymore.
There we go. Yeah, I thought of this. I was talking about this was the video I was talking about last week.
Yeah.
I really like it because it really just like
It switches the perspective of what like they were doing into what we do in modern times, basically.
yeah, it puts in perspective because like you said, it's not always just a golden calf.
Right.
It doesn't have to be this like literal representation of a god. It could be
anything. It can be your
anything.
idol,
Be money.
basically. Yeah.
Be your own lust.
Like you can be using money as the sacrifice, like people do at multiple games where they bid on a bunch
gamble,
of
yeah.
they gamble. So
yeah, it's I say ridiculous, but then
you're
we have our own little idols that
Yeah.
we keep it ourselves. And I'm in no real position. I just did that the wrong way. I'm in no real. We're in no position to judge other people.
right, and we're not
Only
necessarily
he's in
like
position.
we're not necessarily like judging. We're just
Yeah, we're just
saying,
we're just being like,
making a statement on
yeah.
it. Examples.
So back to the golden calf, literal golden calf. We're gonna go to Exodus 32, chapter 32, verse 1. My microphone almost fell. That was bad. When the people saw that Moses was so long in coming down from the mountain, they gathered around Aaron and said, "Come, make us gods who will go before us. As for this fellow Moses who brought us up out of Egypt, we don't know what has happened to him." Aaron answered them, "Take off the gold earrings that your wives, your sons, and daughters are wearing, and bring them to me." So all the people took off their earrings and brought them to Aaron. He took what they handed him and made it into an idol, cast in the shape of a calf, fashioning it with a tool. Then they said, "These are your gods, Israel, who brought you up out of Egypt." Okay. I think, this is one of the things where I want to say it's crazy, because these are the same people who saw God destroy the greatest army
literally
in the world,
part the waters,
part the sea, and we know they parted the sea because
brought multiple
we're rated it less on it, but
plagues,
multiple plagues, killed all the firstborn who did not put the
including one of Pharaoh's own sons.
Pharaoh's own sons, and they went,
Nah.
yeah. They look up at the mountain, they see this giant. It was a storm, right?
Yeah, it was a
Top of the
giant
mountain.
storm that Moses
Giant
went
storm
up
on top of
to.
the mountain that Moses went to, and they go, "Moses sure is taking his time.
It's pretty loud up there
It's
too.
pretty loud." Hey, Aaron.
you
wanna make us a god?
Hey, can you make us a calf?
It kind of flabbergasted me a little bit.
How many people do you think it was? Like, how large do you actually think that calf was? Because they made it out of earrings and stuff, right?
They made it out of earrings of. It had to be a good number of people.
Like, what size did they actually make it, though, you think?
It has to be enough because remember when Moses, I think it's later in the thing. Actually, it's right there in verse 8. Let's go down a little bit. We can see in verse 7. Previous verse we see at the very end right there, it says, "Afterward they sat down to eat and drink and got up to indulge in revelry." Goodness gracious. Can you say that word for me?
Revelry?
Thank you. I don't know if I can say it. But they're right there. So they're eating, drinking, they're doing what they want to do. A lot of sin and everything else comes back to what we want to do.
Yeah.
That's what we want to do instead of what God wants to do. And that's what a lot of idols happen. People will try to change God and put him in a box to where I can still do what I want to do, and
And
still
back to what we were talking
right,
about last
stay
week,
air quotes,
too,
by the way.
is if you tell God not to go somewhere,
That's the first
that's
place-
exactly
that's
where
where he
he's
wants
going
to
to go.
And then we see in verse 7, we see, "Then the Lord said to Moses, 'Go down, because your people whom you've brought up out of Egypt have become corrupt.'"
So while God was talking to Moses, he already knew what was going on. Now, Moses didn't, but now he does.
That does. "They have been quick to turn away from what I commanded them and have made themselves an idol cast in the shape of a calf. They have bowed down to it and sacrificed to it, and they have said, 'These are your gods, Israel, who brought you up out of Egypt.' I have seen in these people," the Lord said to Moses, "and they are a stiff-necked people. Now leave me alone so that my anger may not burn against them, and that I may destroy them. Then I will make you into a great nation." So right there, because we know God's a jealous God. He does not want you to have a God above him. He's very, very serious in that fact.
Like, what are the first two commandments? God is number one, and cut out the idols.
"I am the Lord thy God."
Yep.
"There shall have no other gods before me."
And then the second one's no idols.
No idols. Dude, he's very serious, because when you say, "All right, God, I'm giving myself to you. You are my God," he goes, "Okay, I'm your God now. You were being serious. Let's be serious." And they're like, "All right, God, save us." He saved them, and now they're like, thanks God. They're doing this. They took God off the shelf and went, God, help me. And then God helped them. They went, all right, put him right back on the shelf. Dude. And we see God gets angry. He's like we've seen God in Scripture. He's a loving God. And I think people, a lot of, especially new churches, they miss the point that even though he's a loving God, that does not mean he cannot feel anger and you cannot incur his wrath.
Yeah, there's
That's a-
multiple instances of like God's wrath, and it's
Sodom and Gomorrah.
yeah, Sodom and Gomorrah is like
Flood.
probably one of the biggest, or not the biggest ones. The flood's the biggest
The
one.
flood's the biggest one.
flood's the biggest one. But Sodom and Gomorrah is like a big one.
It's a big one.
Yeah.
Dude, nothing was left.
And then
But they found it.
Lot's wife turned around, right?
Yeah, Lot's
Yeah.
wife. She, God said, the angels told them, God said, goodness gracious. The angel said, do not turn around. Keep going. But she loved Sodom and Gomorrah, so she turned around. She turned into a pillar of salt.
Yep.
And they found that pillar of salt, by the way.
Oh, really?
They found it, yeah.
Oh,
I was
that's
reading
cool.
it somewhat recently. It was like a month ago. I read a little article where they found the sites of Sodom and Gomorrah. They found giant brimstone pieces. There was nothing left, dude. It was insane. They
Did it
found
look
a
like-
pillar of salt a little
Did
ways
it
out.
look like a person at all? Like any form of it?
I can't remember. I'll see if
if
I
it
can,
did, that would be cool.
I'll see if I can find it. 1 second, guys. I gotta excuse myself.
But so for the part that I was thinking of, I don't have any of the verses for it, but the main thing that I correspond it to is with Jesus, right? During Jesus' time, there was the priest, and hang on 1 second. All right, sorry about that. During Jesus' time, the priests, they would mainly pray for acknowledgement, right? They're not praying to have that relationship with God like we do. We ask God for help. There's a lot, this can go back to that song by NF, Oh Lord, where it says, it says something like, we only pray to God when we need him, but when you're healthy, or no, it's leave me alone, God. I'll call you when I need you again. That's what it is, which is what a lot of people do. And the priests, they did it only for a short amount of time, or when they were in front of people to be like, I am holier than thou, you know? But back to what Ryan was talking about with the calf, they just started worshiping a literal thing that they created. Like sometimes what we worship is something we create ourselves. One second. Okay, cool. Sorry about that. The headset, or not headset, the microphone started messing up. So, like, another example of, like, idols can be, like, video games, right? You can start worshiping video games to the point of where it's taking you away from the church. And then that becomes an idol to you because Sunday morning you're playing a video game when you're supposed to be at church. You might still have it on your phone listening live to the message, but whenever you're playing a video game, you can't hear what God has to say to you, right? The live stream is mainly like a convenience thing. So you can actually still get the message without being there because something came up. That's how I look at it anyways. I'm gonna go check on what's going on real quick to make sure they're okay. Cause, yeah. Oh, all right. So I'm actually gonna have to stop the live stream. But thank y'all for listening in, and please subscribe and comment whatever next question you have. Sorry we have to end this early. Yeah. We might be back later.